What's up guys, it's Hawaii Legend. I'm here with my second video, and this is the second part of that second video of Fellowship of the Arcane Elite. Now before we go into anything, I want to shout out Bvnches. This is the guy who did the intro to this video. He does edits for me, etc. This guy's incredible. If you guys ever need graphic stuff, intros, anything like that, this is the guy to get a hold of. So yeah, shout out to him. Now, as far as this video goes, I'm using the same intro, clip right here because I want to show you guys my gear every time before a video, just so you know what I'm rocking with. I'm going through my gear right now. I have a 6-piece Elite now, which it's awesome. I'm loving it. The more stats, the better. I think now with over a 50 combo, I can have 190k health as a tank, which is awesome. However, I do want to encourage those who don't have as much gear as I do that, it's still doable. I was doing this stuff with purple gear on Elite, so it is definitely doable. It's just now I've gotten to the point where I have enough Elite gear where it just becomes easier and easier every time I get a new piece of gear. As far as the trinkets goes, I'm rocking the dampening field, the chronometrics emitters, the breakout trinket, and an orbital. Reasons for that, I'll probably come out with another video later on about my loadout and why I use the things I do. But yeah, as far as this boss fight goes, there's a lot of things to discuss, but we'll push into that. I just think that as a tank, you guys work on your loadouts, work on your skills, but also work on mechanics, because I feel like mechanics is that X factor that's really going to make you stand out as a tank and really do the best you can. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so this boss is definitely hard to solo tank, so before we do anything, I'm going to show you my game plan. I thought it would be easiest if I laid this out like a map to kind of show you guys my game plan of how to attack this fight. So bear with me if you can. We're going to start off like this though. So we got the boss fight teleport circle, the boss fight circle, and the 2 spirit orb pillars. This is just to help you understand the orientation of where you're at on the map. After that, we're going to throw in our bosses. So we got 2 stars, Felix, Faust, and Clarion. Obviously Tikal would show up later and that would be a 3rd star, but just for our sake, we're going to start with 2. After that, we're going to do the Croatoan spawn points. This is important to know for the mechanics that I'll be explaining later on. 1 on each part of this, or each corner of the circle. After that, we'll put in our healers and start putting in our team. So I split up the healers and have 1 on each side of those 2 pillars. And that's pretty much how I'm going to split the team. So after that, we'll add me as a tank who starts on the front side of the map. We'll add our 2 DPSs, 1 on each side. And then after that, we'll add the troll in the back. Now, you're probably wondering why there's only 2 DPSs, but this is where the mechanics part and my plan as far as how to attack the mechanics comes into play. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce the mechanics players. So these guys right here are mechanics players, and they're going to play a very huge part of this boss fight. Without them, it's a lot more chaotic. What I did, instead of having 4 DPSs, I cut 2 off to just clearly focus on mechanics. So what them and the troll do is they focus on getting the 4 Croatoans that come out. By doing this eliminates the Croatoan mechanic, allowing everyone else to just focus on the boss fight, making it a much smoother run. So now that you understand the game plan of how we're going to be attacking this boss fight, it's time to dive into it. What I'm going to do is start this boss fight and walk you kind of through what we're doing. So where I showed you on the map I was as tank is how I'm going to be tanking this entire match. In the beginning, you try to aggro the bosses onto you, but then you gotta make sure you get Tikal over to you. At this point, we pull Tikal over, and then we all drop orbitals on Tikal and Clarion. Obviously, well, actually, if you don't know, one of the mechanics is the Tikal bite. So at some point, Tikal is gonna pin you down, just like Tikal does in the duo. Which is also one of the cool things I think about this game. They do a lot of things in their duos and alerts to kind of prep you for the raids. So at some point you'll probably see Tikal pin me down, and then when Tikal pins someone down, you need to have one of your DPSs lunge Tikal. Now the thing is, when someone lunges Tikal and Clarion's right by there, Clarion has a chance to one-shot one of those people that lunge Tikal, because there's a huge AoE storm. It's like a lightning storm that Clarion does, and this will one-shot anyone in the area. So what I do is I try to keep them up there and stay as far away from them as possible. Another thing you got to look out for is ads throughout the match. So if you see back there, there's a sorcerer that I'm trying to constantly pull. They really don't pull unless they want to be pulled. It's really kind of weird. So you just got to keep going for that and do what you can. At this point, everyone's just going to keep DPSing and do what they can, while us as a tank, we just take as much as we can and pull everything to the front with us. Now, one thing about the Croatoans, because like I said earlier, we got 3 people that are maining on Croatoans right now, so maybe 1 or 2 will get through, but for the most part there shouldn't be any. We've had plenty of runs where no Croatoans gets in, and it's such an easy, smooth run. But what happens is on the front 2 sides where the Croatoans spawn, my area pull will usually pull them in. So like you see there, I got a Croatoan right by me, and I'm just going to keep pulling it by me. Now if you see right there, it's kind of walking straight towards the pillars from where I'm at. That's something that your DPSs need to look out for. They're not necessarily trying to grab the Croatoans as soon as they spawn, because that's too close to Clarion. What they do is they wait for the Croatoans to become immune to my pulls, and then they walk for the pillars. At that point, that's when our DPSs or our mechanic players want to meet up with them, is when they're immune and they're getting close to the pillars, close enough to where they're out of Clarion's range, because again, Clarion has this huge lightning storm that he does, and you're getting one shot if you come within that range. Another mechanic of this boss fight is Mordru. He does this shot, and it's pretty random. I mean, actually, we've had healers, so one of my healers, he'll call out who Mordru's looking at, and at that point, if you see Mordru doing some kind of animation, you should probably just block. That has one-shot people, or it's done a lot of damage to people, as the thing that's just out there that you gotta look out for. Besides that, it's pretty much just pull all the ads you can, keep the Croatoans out of there, and just destroy the bosses, really. Getting Tikal out of there is one of the huge things. If you see, or if you've been watching me right now, you see that I'm constantly jumping around. Now, if you rewind or keep watching right now, I do this thing where I jump constantly around, and back when I was tanking Tikal, I jump over Tikal on each side to try to keep Tikal from biting me and pinning me down. But one of the main things is to try to jump and stay untrapped. What happens if you're trapped is you don't really know if you're stunned or not, and you want to be able to have that freedom to use a group breakout or your breakout trinket if something crazy happens, right? Another thing is if you're going to run this 2 DPS mechanic, you're going to need some crazy burn. Luckily, I'm blessed to have some awesome gamer friends that are incredible DPSs. They're just incredible. So with those 2 DPSs, they take out the bosses and take out the ads really fast. And I have, again, I'm really blessed to have a lot of good DPS friends who I can set up multiple different groups with. Like, we've been able to carry 2 DPSs at a time, just random pugs on the server, and help them get their first elite victory, stuff like that, because I have 2 good DPSs who can focus on the fight, and I just put the randoms that are in the group that don't know what to do, I just tell them to get Croatoans the entire time, and it works out incredibly. It may be a slower burn fight, yes, but you're playing it safer and you're going to have a higher chance of succeeding. What happens if you don't have the best burn is at some point ads will keep spawning out, and obviously those ads do one-shots. That gets pretty hectic. They don't necessarily one-shot me as a tank, but they do a ton of damage. So if I end up having 5 ads on me, plus possibly 3 of the bosses on me if Tikal isn't out yet, that is an extraordinary amount of damage that I don't necessarily want to take. My healers don't want to heal. You're going to have the healer and the tank arguing because, this is just too much damage, and then the troll's going to be getting mad because that's too much power out. So it's all bad. So that brings me to another point is I really like in this content how it's really put a DPS check on people. There have been a lot of people I've run into on our server who, yes, they say they have the good burn, they try to, stick their chests out and say how good they are, but then when it comes to these raids, they just don't have the burn like that. And I think it's really cool because it brings into this whole idea, like, you really need that burn. Like, you need to really, you need to really sharpen yourself as a player to be able to do this, because now DPSing is part of the mechanic as well. And if any of you guys have done SGE or Shattered Gotham Elite, for example, the last boss, it's a time limited boss, so you really need that DPS burn in there. And so I think that it was a really cool thing they did with this DLC. And so, like I said, you know, the more burn you have, the better for this. And having the people like the two mechanics players I set aside to do these Croatoans are awesome. For the most part, I think I've covered pretty much all the mechanics in here that you really got to worry about. Obviously, if an ad pops out, so the way that my teams and I do it is Croatoans are called Croatoans. I've heard a lot of different names for Croatoans, but we just, you know, something like that. Whereas any of the ads that can one-shot whatnot, we call those ads. So if one of those pops out, my team blocks on whichever side it is, left or right. They'll call out which side they're on. I gotta turn there as a tank fast enough and pull the ads fast enough so that someone doesn't get one-shot. If people get one-shot, that's on me. You know, there's sometimes where they spawn and they hit the one-shot automatically. That's just unfortunate, but for me as a tank, I still take blame because I know I need to sharpen up as a player and try to be on top of that as much as I can. Now, as far as those go, you know, pull them in and keep it going. At the end, after Clarion's out, you're going to see that I'll keep pulling the ads. I usually have one DPS, one of my two DPSs go on Felix the entire time. The other one will stay with me and take out the ads the entire time. The reason for this is, you know, I can block break the ad at this point because I don't have everything on me. So I'll usually block break the ad, and he's not going to be doing that much damage at that point. And then my other DPS who's DPSing him, they can just, you know, destroy his health, get him out of there. If you also see right here, I'm pulling 3 of these Croatoans. So this is another little trick is, once things start winding down, you have 2 bosses out, you can actually pull as many Croatoans as you want and just keep them with you as a tank. The reason for this is the Croatoans don't spawn more than 4 at a time, and you know, if you take all 4 at that point, everyone else can just focus on the boss. So I wasn't able to get all 4, but you know, I got 3 of them. So at that point, the people who are working on Croatoans, they only have to worry about 1, which is pretty sweet for them, because that also means that one of my mechanics players can turn into a DPS and go for Felix or the ads should I have, you know, multiple ads on me. Again, or another thing is, as you've been seeing throughout the fight, everyone kind of keeps their orbitals off cooldown like that. Just use them off cooldown. The only one that you really gotta organize is that first one on Tinkle, because the faster you get Tinkle out of there, the easier it is for us as a tank, because we have to tank everything, and it really sucks tanking everything if, you know, we're pinned down and we have nothing to do or no moves to use to get more defense. One thing you can do at the end is you can lunge tank Felix if you want. I choose not to because I want to keep the map spread out. Also, we let a Croatoan in, so there's purple on the map, which I guess I should speak on that. So the purple stuff happens if we just call it the purple pools, and that happens if a Croatoan gets in. Basically, if you're standing on that purple as a tank, we get a heal debuff where we're not getting heals, and obviously, especially if you're solo tanking, that usually means death for the most part. I really enjoy super speed for this because, I mean, there's been instances before where I literally will run up the wall and just tank on the wall, and I'll jump clip every move I can and just stay off the purple pools. And there was an instance where there was literally only 4 of us left, and we got past it, but the entire map was just purple. And so I'm just tanking on the side of the wall the entire time and jump clipping and then repositioning myself on the wall while I'm tanking. But for everyone else out there who may be a different movement, or that just seems like a lot of effort that really doesn't need to be put in, just, you know, try to encourage you guys to make sure that no Croatoans get in. That's pretty much it as far as the fight goes. I think it was a really cool boss fight, especially to solo tank. There's a lot of challenges to meet up with. One of the obvious ones is just how much damage you take. And so as a tank, I mean, I'm blessed to be able to use Rage, whereas there's some other powers where, you know, they may or may not be able to take as much damage as I do. For me, I run my my rage shield, as well as my trinket or consumable, which is a dampening field. And so the way I use those is I use them between my rages. So that means time wise, because my shield is an 18-second cooldown and my dampening field is a 30-second cooldown, I can use those pretty much every 3 rotations. But that also means that if I were to go through one rage, pop my shield, my next rage, pop my dampening field, just like I do right there, or try to do. On my third one, I'm not going to have any shields. So that may or may not be something to try to communicate with your healers. I do that a lot. My healers may get annoyed because I'll be screaming out for heals or something, or I'll just tell them, you know, hey, rage down, I need some priority heals, something like that. Obviously, I can't do a full discussion like that, but there's good callouts. Which again, like all these raids now that they're coming out with, which I think is awesome, you have to have some really good communication with your team. But yeah, besides that, it's a pretty cool fight. I think a lot of people try to rush it, get the burn going. There's some people who claim that, you know, crotones aren't a big mechanic in this and they don't need to. I personally disagree. However, I'm not gonna blame anyone for thinking however they want to think. That's their choice. If they get done with the raid, that's it. But that's about it for this video. We're about to kill him, and you know, I really appreciate if this helps all of you guys. You know, I'm happy if it helps you. You know, let me know in the comments and whatnot if it helps you or anything else you want. But you know, hey, thanks again.